Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the Unported playlist, where we take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at 1996's Tokyo Wars, released by Namco. And the reason I love this game so much is honestly because I played the ever-loving hell out of it in the arcades when they had a two-person deluxe cabinet at my local arcade for probably a month. And this game is definitely fun to play at home, but you are going to lose some components of it because that deluxe cab had this giant pneumatic recoil action to it, so when that tank fired, you felt it in your hands. And while you could totally wire that up somehow at home, I'm sure it can be done, and I could probably figure it out if I took enough time, it's definitely going to be a lot of work. But it's a great game, and I wanted to show it to you guys because I love it so much. So basically in the beginning, you can either choose the green force or the white force. There's absolutely no difference, and you have the Bay Area or downtown. And it's a very quick game. You can get a playthrough or two in this within 10 minutes. So it's not something that I would definitely collect in my collection because it's not going to be value to time proposition worth it. But emulating it works perfectly well, and I can play Tokyo Wars again because, like every other game on this list, it really hasn't been ported to anything. So the only way to play it is either find an original cabinet, and I haven't seen one since I was a kid, or to emulate it at home. And I am playing it on MAME, and the emulation works perfectly fine. It runs at full speed, there's no graphical issues, any artifacting, things like that, so it's definitely something you can just pick up and play. And I am playing it with an Xbox One controller, and it translates really well. Your analog stick moves, your right trigger moves you forward, your left trigger moves you backwards like a tank would, and then I can't remember, I think the A button is what you use to shoot. So it's a very easy game to get into, and it's a fair game because it was a traction cabinet where you sat down in a large chair and you thought for a second, this is what it feels like to drive a tank. Now granted, I'm sure it's much more complex in real life, but for Tokyo Wars, it gives you that feeling of driving the tank, and it translates really well to the Xbox One controller, or I'm sure if you use a PlayStation 4 DualShock controller, it's going to work the same. I just use an Xbox One controller for my setup. But as far as the gameplay is concerned, it is exactly what you'd expect. You drive a tank, and you want to destroy other tanks. And the enemy AI is quite good. They will try to flank you, and they'll try to sneak up on you, and you definitely have to worry about them. Because you'll see down below, I've already taken a death or two, and you have so many tanks on your side, and when you die, you respawn in the same place you started as another tank. So basically, you want to be careful, but as you destroy a tank, if you roll over it, you do get some of your armor back, or your life back. I mean, they call it armor, but it is just your life bar. So if you're strategic enough, you can definitely win a round with one or two tanks death. And if you're really good at the game and practice a lot, you can probably get through it without losing a single tank. But the enemies are definitely intelligent. They don't feel like they're predicting your behavior all the time, but they definitely don't feel like they're going to be shooting fish in a barrel level easy either. And you will see the round is over, and I have won. We have 7 tanks remaining on my side versus 2 green tanks. And it's hard to kill all the tanks in one playthrough. I do increase the time in the menu, but that also increases the amount of tanks you have to kill in that time frame. So it can definitely be a little bit more challenging. But now we're moving on to the Bay Area. I'm going to stop talking, and you can just watch this match from start to finish because the music is quite good. And I'll come back in a minute and we'll talk more about Tokyo Wars, but enjoy. we have won another round, and the rounds definitely go quickly. But I will say that if you do this as a 2-player game via emulation, you can get 2 instances networked up. It's not easy, it takes a little bit of fiddling, but if you're technically minded, you watch a tutorial, you can totally get away with it, and it's just awesome in that way. But now we're doing another round of the downtown area, and I have in the background increased the time, which is going to give us a little bit more playthrough. Why wasn't this ported? Well, to me it kind of makes sense. One, they would have had to make the game a lot longer because this is a full-priced console release with just 2 levels. After 10 minutes, you've seen everything the game has to offer, and that's not going to really do well at home because a lot of arcade conversions to the home kind of increased the amount of levels or gave you new game modes, gave you something extra to be able to play to justify asking $50 or $60 for the game back then. Definitely looks like it could have run on the PlayStation 1, but just like our Alpine Racer 2 episode, this does have a custom GPU that has nothing to do with the PlayStation platform in general. So while it may look like a PlayStation game, it doesn't share any of the hardware, so maybe it was just too hard to translate over, or maybe it just never even got that far. They just decided they'd released it for the arcades, Namco had made their money, and they just moved on. But I think this would have been a great experience at home because playing it with a controller, you could have played this with a D-pad and the triggers on the PlayStation 1 controller, or they could have used the analog controller when that came out to be able to kind of emulate that tank control as well. But it emulates perfectly. It's very easy to pick up, very easy to play, and I definitely recommend you do so because it's just one of those arcade experiences that does really play well at home. And granted, like I said, this originally came in a deluxe arcade cabinet, so you're losing a lot of that haptic feedback feel that is so fun in arcades. But the game is such a good time, I don't really miss it that much. And if you did want to buy a PCB of this, you totally could wire up a pedal and wheel set because that's how it controlled in arcades. And if you even had a vibration motor, you could tap the lines for that pneumatic feedback and you could get it to vibrate when you shot. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to spend a lot of time and research doing it. And is it worth it? That's up to you. But pretty much every arcade game ever can be converted to play at home with a super gun and the right controls if you just do your research. I'm not going to do it for Tokyo Wars, but that's just me. But I'm curious, did anyone else ever get a chance to play this game in arcades? Because I feel like it was everywhere for the longest time, but it did just kind of disappear as age went on. But I'm curious who else has played these, because a lot of times in the comments I hear people saying they've never seen this before, or I hear, oh my god, that was one of my favorite games of all time. So you tell me down below, have you played it? What did you think about it? Do you wish it had been ported home? I kind of wish Namco would take this formula and give us a PSVR or even a PC VR tank experience, because if you took this, expanded all the levels, and kind of did a Tokyo Wars 2 in full VR on PSVR, I think that would be absolutely amazing, because it's a game that I think would just really translate well over to VR. But short of that, that is Tokyo Wars, released in 1996 by Namco. It's a super fun game. It emulates perfectly. You do lose a little bit of features from the cabinet, but it's definitely not something that bothers me that much. And it's a game that I think you should check out and play, because this particular hardware set from Namco had some really good experiences. And visually, I just love how it looks. All these games, they're colorful, the polygons look nice, it moves at 60 frames a second. It kind of feels like if you just took a PlayStation 1, multiplied the power of it by 2, and released it, that's what you would have had in this instance. But if you could do us a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. It takes us a lot of time and energy to make each one of these episodes, and we definitely appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, because like I've said before, I don't love making these in an echo chamber. I love hearing what people think and what their opinions are, so whatever it is, as long as it's nice, go ahead and leave it down below. But we will be back next Sunday with another episode in our Unported Arcade playlist, and we'll be back on Tuesday and Friday with other episodes as well. But short of that, that is Tokyo Wars. Did you ever want to drive a tank through downtown, shooting other enemy tanks? Well, it's definitely going to be the game for you. And it takes about 3 minutes to get set up and MAME and running, so it's really one of the easier instances of trying to emulate anything. But short of that, we hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week, and just watch the battle finish. Bye-bye.